Commander Elena Torres stood at the bridge of the EDS Odyssey, Earth's most advanced deep space vessel, as it patrolled the outer edges of the Kuiper Belt. Humanity had spent the last decade expanding their presence in space, driven by the age-old question, are we alone? Today, they would finally get their answer, though not in the way anyone had expected. Commander, we're picking up an unusual signal, Lieutenant Marcus Kim reported, his fingers dancing across the quantum interface. It's not following any known pattern of natural phenomena. Torres moved to his station, her neural implant automatically connecting with the ship's systems. The signal pulsed with an odd regularity that suggested artificial origin. Analysis. It appears to be a distress beacon, but the encryption is like nothing we've ever seen. Kim responded, his eyes fixed on the streaming data. Wait, it's changing. The signal is adapting to our scanning frequencies. Before Torres could respond, the ship's AI, spoke up. Commander, I've decoded part of the transmission. It contains mathematical sequences that suggest advanced intelligence. The source appears to be approaching our position at sublight speed. Torres straightened, years of training kicking in. Sound general quarters. Lieutenant Kim, maintain passive scanning only. Lieutenant Rivera, bring our quantum shields to full power, but keep our weapon systems in standby. Let's not start first contact with an itchy trigger finger. The bridge crew moved with practiced efficiency as the massive ship prepared for humanity's first encounter with an alien species. Through the main viewport, a point of light grew steadily larger, resolving into a vessel that defied conventional design logic. Its hull seemed to flow like liquid metal, with geometric patterns that shifted and changed as they watched. Multiple life signs detected, AIA reported. The vessel's power signature is failing. Their propulsion system appears to be operating at less than 10% capacity. Torres made a decision. Open a channel, all frequencies. Let's see if they're willing to talk. The response came not in words, but in a burst of data that AIA quickly processed. Commander, they're transmitting visual information. Converting now. A holographic image materialized in the center of the bridge. The alien that appeared was humanoid, but clearly not human. Its skin had a metallic sheen, and what appeared to be crystalline structures grew from its shoulders and head. Its eyes were pools of swirling silver. I am Sentinel Vix of the Meridian Collective, the alien spoke, its words automatically translated by AIA. We seek asylum. The swarm, they have found us. They will find you too. Help us, and we can help you prepare. Torres felt the weight of history on her shoulders. This wasn't just first contact. This was first contact with a species running from something worse. I am Commander Elena Torres of the Earth Defense Ship Odyssey. We stand ready to assist, but we need to know what we're dealing with. Vic's expression shifted, the crystalline structures darkening. The swarm consumes all in their path. They do not negotiate. They do not show mercy. We were once a peaceful species spanning 1,000 systems. Now, we are refugees, carrying what remains of our civilization in this last ship. The tactical officer, Lieutenant Rivera, spoke up. Commander, long-range sensors are detecting multiple quantum disturbances at the edge of the system. Something's coming. Vix's image flickered. They have followed us. You must run. Your technology, while impressive, cannot stand against them. We should not have brought this to your doorstep. Torres smiled, an expression that held both warmth and steel. The thing about humans, Sentinel Vix, is that we don't run. Not when innocent lives are at stake. Lieutenant Rivera, initiate the quantum shroud. Lieutenant Kim, prepare for emergency docking procedures. AIA, alert Earth Command, and begin upload of all tactical data from our new friends. As the Odyssey's experimental quantum field enveloped both ships, hiding them from conventional detection, Torres addressed Vix again. Your people sought refuge among the stars and found only war. Well, now you've found Earth. And if these swarm want to fight, They're about to learn why humanity spent its entire history preparing for one. The bridge crew worked with calm efficiency, knowing that somewhere out there, an enemy was approaching that had destroyed civilizations. But they weren't afraid. Humanity had spent millennia evolving, adapting, and overcoming every challenge their harsh world had thrown at them. They had developed technologies in isolation that other species had never imagined. The swarm thought they were invincible because they'd never faced a species that evolved like humanity had. They'd never encountered a civilization that had turned their own planet's harsh challenges into advantages. They'd never faced a species that had nearly destroyed itself multiple times, learning and growing stronger from each near-extinction event. As the Odyssey prepared for battle, Torres knew that this was the moment humanity had been unconsciously preparing for throughout its entire history. The swarm was about to learn that Earth wasn't just another world to consume. It was the home of a species that had perfected the art of survival against all odds. The war was about to begin, and humanity was ready to show the galaxy why evolution had made them the apex predators of Earth. The Alliance. Admiral Marcus Wright stood in the heart of the Lunar Defense Command, watching as holographic displays showed the approaching swarm fleet. In the month since the Odyssey's first contact with the Meridians, Earth had transformed its military-industrial complex into a war machine unlike anything in human history. "Show me the Jupiter shipyards," Wright commanded. The display shifted to reveal massive construction facilities orbiting Jupiter's largest moons. Dozens of warships were under construction, their designs incorporating both human ingenuity and Meridian knowledge. But these weren't traditional vessels. They were predators, built with every lesson humanity had learned from Earth's most efficient hunters. Colonel Diana Patel, his chief of operations, stepped forward. "The first wave of quantum strike vessels will be ready in 3 days, Admiral. The integration of Meridian crystal tech with our quantum systems is exceeding all expectations." Wright nodded, studying the nearest ship in detail. The Meridians had been amazed when they learned that humans had developed quantum technology without first mastering faster-than-light travel. But Earth had learned long ago that the best defense was a good offense, and they'd focused on technologies that would give them an edge in combat. "How are the Meridian engineers adapting to our neural interface systems?" he asked. Patel brought up another display showing the joint human-Meridian research facilities. "Better than we hoped, sir. Their crystalline biology actually interfaces more smoothly with our quantum systems than human wetware. They're helping us push the technology far beyond our original specifications." The neural interfaces were another uniquely human development, born from the necessity of managing Earth's increasingly complex defense systems. While other species relied on AI for ship control, humanity had instead developed technology that turned their ships into extensions of human consciousness. Sentinel Vix, now serving as Earth's primary advisor on swarm tactics, entered the command center. The Meridian's crystalline structures glowed with a soft blue light, a sign of optimism the humans had learned to recognize. "The latest simulations are complete," Vix announced. "Your quantum strike vessels, they're unlike anything we've ever seen. The swarm's hive mind tactics rely on predicting enemy responses based on known patterns of warfare. But your ships, they move like your planet's apex predators, unpredictable, lethal." Wright allowed himself a grim smile. "The swarm thinks war is about overwhelming force. We're going to teach them that nature's most successful hunters aren't always the biggest or strongest. Sometimes, they're the ones that can adapt the fastest." A young lieutenant burst into the command center, her neural interface pulsing with urgent data. "Admiral, we're detecting swarm scout ships entering the Oort cloud." "Show me," Wright ordered. The holographic display shifted to show 3 biomechanical vessels, their organic hulls bristling with weapon ports. They moved with an arrogance that spoke of never having faced a serious threat. "They're scanning for conventional energy signatures," Patel reported. "Standard search pattern. They haven't detected our quantum tech yet." Wright watched the enemy ships for a moment longer. "How many of the new quantum strike destroyers are combat ready?" 5. Sir, the Pegasus, Chimera, Phoenix, Griffin, and Hydra. Launch them all. Let's show the swarm why Earth's predatory evolution wasn't just about physical strength. The order went out, and in the shipyards around Jupiter's moons, 5 vessels detached from their construction cradles. They were beautiful in their lethality, their hulls incorporating designs learned from Earth's most efficient hunters. Like the octopus, they could change their energy signatures to match their surroundings. Like the mantis shrimp, their quantum weapons could strike from multiple dimensions simultaneously. Like the spider, they could weave webs of quantum fields to trap their prey. Vix watched with growing amazement as the human ships moved into attack formation. Your vessels are much smaller than swarm ships, they observed. In all our battles, we never thought to build warships on such a scale. Size isn't everything, Sentinel, Wright replied. Earth's most lethal predators aren't always the largest. Sometimes, they're the ones the prey never sees coming. The 5 human destroyers moved through space like ghosts, their quantum displacement fields making them virtually invisible to conventional sensors. They approached the swarm scouts from different angles, using the solar system's natural electromagnetic fields to mask their approach. The swarm ships still haven't detected our vessels, Paddle reported. They're completely focused on scanning for conventional drive signatures. Wright opened a channel to all 5 destroyers. Remember your training. Like the pack hunters of Earth, coordinate your attacks. Strike hard, strike fast, and show no mercy. These bastards need to learn that they're not the only predators in space. The attack, when it came, was devastating in its precision. The Pegasus struck first, its quantum beams cutting through the lead swarm ship's biological shields, as if they didn't exist. Before the other swarm vessels could react, the Chimera and Phoenix pounced from different vectors, their quantum torpedoes creating localized areas of altered space-time. The swarm ship's organic hulls literally twisted apart as space itself warped around them. The Griffin and Hydra delivered the killing blows, their weapons synchronized to strike through multiple quantum dimensions simultaneously, ensuring no part of the swarm vessels could escape through their emergency phase shifts. The entire engagement lasted less than 3 minutes. By the first light, Vix whispered, their crystalline structures pulsing with shock. We fought the swarm for centuries. I have never seen their ships destroyed so easily. Wright watched as his ships began recovering debris for analysis. This was just the beginning, Sentinel. The swarm thinks they're invincible because they've never faced a species that evolved like we did. They've never encountered a civilization that turned their own planet's harshness into an advantage. They've never fought an enemy that spent its isolation preparing for exactly this kind of war. As orders went out across the solar system, Wright watched humanity's war machine accelerate into full production. The shipyards blazed with activity, constructing vessels that would redefine space warfare. In labs and factories across Earth, new weapons were being developed, incorporating everything humanity had learned from millions of years of evolutionary combat. The swarm had never faced an enemy like humanity, a species that had spent its entire existence preparing for war, even when they didn't know who the enemy would be. They were about to learn why isolation had made humanity not weaker, but infinitely more dangerous. The real war was about to begin. Shadow Protocol. Captain Maya Rodriguez stood at the helm of the EDS Phoenix, watching through her neural interface as the massive swarm hive fleet emerged from hyperspace. 500 biological warships, each one larger than anything humanity had built, appeared at the edge of the Alpha Centauri system. They had come, just as the Meridians had warned, to consume everything in their path. But this time, they weren't facing a civilization unprepared for their arrival. All ships maintain quantum silence, Rodriguez broadcasted to her battle group. 20 human vessels, hidden in the system's asteroid belt, powered down to their lowest energy states. Their quantum displacement fields, inspired by the chromatophores of Earth's octopi, bent light and energy around them, making them indistinguishable from the surrounding space rocks. Swarm fleet is advancing on standard vector. Lieutenant James Chen reported from his tactical station. Their bioscanners are active, searching for conventional energy signatures. No sign they've detected us. Rodriguez smiled grimly. The swarm, for all their devastating power, were creatures of habit. They had conquered so many civilizations the same way that they'd never developed new tactics. They'd never needed to evolve. Shadow Protocol is in effect, she announced. All ships prepare to execute on my mark. The Shadow Protocol was humanity's answer to the swarm's overwhelming numbers. It wasn't about matching their force. It was about changing the rules of engagement entirely. Like the trapdoor spider waiting in its burrow, humanity would turn the hunters into the hunted. Sentinel Vix, who had specifically requested to serve aboard the Phoenix for this operation, watched the swarm fleet's approach with their crystalline structures dimmed in caution. They'd follow the same attack pattern they used against my people. They will begin seeding their bioweapons soon, preparing the system for consumption. Rodriguez nodded. Let them think they're in control. That's when predators are most vulnerable, when they think they're the only ones hunting. Through her neural interface, Rodriguez could feel her ship's systems humming with anticipation. The Phoenix, like all of Earth's new warships, was as much a living entity as it was a machine. Its quantum computers, linked directly to her consciousness, processed information at speeds that made traditional AI look primitive. Swarm vessels are deploying their seeder ships, Chen reported, beginning biological terraforming protocols. Right on schedule, Rodriguez murmured. Initiate Phase 1. Throughout the asteroid belt, hidden quantum beacons activated. But instead of broadcasting energy signatures, they began absorbing them, creating dead zones in space where the swarm's bioscanners couldn't penetrate. It was a technique learned from studying deep-sea creatures that could create pockets of absolute darkness. The swarm fleet's organized formation began to show signs of confusion. Their biological ships, used to constant communication through their hive mind, suddenly found themselves isolated in patches of quantum silence. Phase 2, Rodriguez ordered. Weave the web. The human fleet began moving, still cloaked, each ship trailing quantum filaments behind them. Like spiders spinning an invisible net, they created a three-dimensional maze of quantum-entangled space. Any swarm ship that tried to phase shift or jump to hyperspace would find itself torn apart by the contradicting laws of physics within these zones. They're detecting the quantum distortions, Chen reported. Swarm fleet is attempting to regroup. Rodriguez watched through her neural interface as the massive enemy fleet began to cluster together, exactly as planned. The swarm's instinct when faced with uncertainty was to gather, to combine their biomass and processing power. It had worked against every enemy they'd faced before, but humanity had studied every predator that had ever evolved on Earth, and they knew that sometimes the greatest strength could become the greatest weakness. Execute Phase 3, Rodriguez commanded. Show them why humanity named our ships after mythical monsters. The Phoenix struck first, its quantum weapons firing from what appeared to be a dozen locations simultaneously, an attack pattern based on how mantis shrimp could strike from multiple angles faster than their prey could process. The swarm ships, their biological shields calibrated for conventional energy weapons, found their defenses useless against attacks that seemed to originate from different dimensions of spacetime. The rest of the human fleet joined the attack, each ship appearing to multiply as their quantum displacement fields created perfect combat duplicates. To the swarm's biosensors, it must have seemed like they were suddenly surrounded by hundreds of predators, striking from every direction at once. Their hive mind is in chaos, Chen reported with satisfaction. They can't distinguish real attacks from quantum echoes. Their coordination is breaking down. Sentinel Vix's crystalline structures pulsed with amazement. This is impossible. The swarm's neural network has never been disrupted before. Their biological ships are actually attacking each other in confusion. Rodriguez watched as the mighty swarm fleet began to tear itself apart. Ships trying to escape through hyperspace were shredded by the quantum web. Others, their biosensors overwhelmed by the chaos of battle, fired blindly at phantom targets, hitting their own vessels instead. This is how nature works, Rodriguez explained to Vix. When a species becomes too specialized, too dependent on a single strategy, they become vulnerable to predators that can exploit that dependency. The swarm never evolved new tactics because they never needed to. Until now. The battle lasted less than an hour. When it was over, the Alpha Centauri system was littered with the broken remains of what had once been the most feared fleet in known space. Of the 500 swarm ships that had arrived, not one remained intact. The human fleet had suffered no losses. As recovery teams began collecting swarm biotechnology for study, Rodriguez received a transmission from Earth Command. The victory at Alpha Centauri was just the beginning. Similar battles were taking place across nearby systems as humanity took the fight to the enemy. The swarm had evolved to be the perfect predator, but they had forgotten one of evolution's most important lessons. There was always something higher up the food chain. Humanity had spent millions of years climbing that chain on Earth, and now they were about to show the galaxy why. Counterattack. General Victor Ramirez watched the holographic display in Earth's Strategic Command Center as hundreds of human warships emerged from quantum space near the edge of swarm territory. Operation Thunderstrike, humanity's first major offensive into enemy space, was about to begin. All battle groups report ready, Colonel Aisha Khan announced from her tactical station, her neural interface pulsing with real-time data from the assembled fleet. Quantum displacement fields are holding steady. The swarm's early warning systems haven't detected our approach. The human fleet was arranged in an attack formation that would have seemed bizarre to traditional military strategists. Instead of concentrated battle groups, the ships were spread out in seemingly random patterns, like a pride of lions surrounding their prey from all angles. Begin Phase 1, Ramirez ordered. Let's show them what we learned from Earth's ambush predators. Throughout the fleet, specialized ships designated as Lancers activated their primary weapons. But instead of firing conventional energy weapons, they began broadcasting quantum signals that mimicked the biochemical signatures of swarm ships in distress. It was a technique inspired by anglerfish, which used bioluminescent lures to attract prey. Multiple swarm response fleets detected, Khan reported. They're moving to investigate the distress signals, exactly as our simulations predicted. Beside Ramirez, Sentinel Vix watched with their crystalline structures glowing in anticipation. The Meridian Advisor had helped design this strategy, combining their knowledge of swarm behavior with humanity's understanding of predatory tactics. The swarm cannot ignore calls for help from their own kind, Vix explained. Their hive mind compels them to respond. It is both their greatest strength and their greatest weakness, Ramirez finished. Just like any other specialized evolutionary trait, Lieutenant Commander Patel, initiate Phase 2. Throughout the battlefield, quantum mines that had been seeded weeks earlier by stealth ships began activating. But these weren't conventional explosives. Each mine contained a quantum field generator that could temporarily alter the fundamental forces of physics within its area of effect. The responding swarm ships suddenly found themselves in zones where the speed of light itself had changed. Their biocomputers, calibrated for normal spacetime, couldn't compensate. Ships trying to maneuver crashed into each other as their navigation systems failed. Others found their biological weapons firing backwards or phasing through their targets without effect. Swarm fleet coordination is breaking down, Khan reported with satisfaction. Their hive mind can't maintain coherence across the variable physics zones. They're reverting to individual actions. Just like when you separate a pack animal from its group, Ramirez noted. Execute Phase 3. The human fleet decloaked, but not in the way the swarm expected. Instead of simply becoming visible, each ship seemed to multiply. Quantum displacement fields created dozens of perfect duplicates, each one capable of affecting real space. To swarm sensors, it appeared as if thousands of warships had suddenly materialized throughout their defense grid. Multiple swarm ships attempting emergency phase shifts. Khan announced. Their drive signatures are interacting with our quantum fields. They're tearing themselves apart. The battle quickly turned into a slaughter, but not in the way the swarm was used to delivering. Human ships, moving with the coordinated precision of wolf packs, isolated and destroyed enemy vessels one by one. The quantum weapons, developed by combining meridian crystal technology with Earth's understanding of dimensional physics, bypassed the swarm's biological shields as if they didn't exist. "This is remarkable," Vix whispered, their crystalline structures pulsing with complex emotions. "The swarm has always relied on overwhelming force and superior numbers. They never developed countermeasures against an enemy that could think like this." Ramirez nodded grimly. "That's because they've never faced a species that evolved on a death world like Earth. Everything on our planet, from the smallest bacteria to the largest predators, had to develop multiple strategies to survive. We learned long ago that brute force alone wasn't enough." The tactical display showed more swarm reinforcements arriving, but they were jumping right into the human fleet's trap. Each new arrival found itself in a different physics zone, unable to coordinate with its allies, facing enemies that seemed to be everywhere and nowhere at once. "Sir," Khan reported, "we're detecting unusual energy signatures from the largest swarm vessels. They appear to be consuming their own ships." "They're trying to adapt," Ramirez realized, absorbing the biomass of their destroyed ships to evolve new defenses. "Clever, but too slow. Execute Phase 4. Throughout the battlefield, human ships began broadcasting quantum signals on frequencies that the Meridians had identified as critical to swarm neural communication. But these weren't simple jamming signals. They were carefully crafted mimetic viruses designed to exploit the very adaptability the swarm relied on. "The virus is spreading through their neural network," Khan announced. "Swarm ships are beginning to attack each other. Their attempts to evolve new defenses are actually accelerating the infection." Ramirez watched as the mighty swarm fleet tore itself apart. Ships that tried to combine their biomass found themselves incorporating the quantum virus directly into their new forms. Others, driven mad by the corrupted neural signals, launched suicidal attacks against anything that moved. "This is how extinction begins to happen," Ramirez explained to Vix. "Not just through overwhelming force, but through the introduction of something the dominant species isn't prepared to handle. The swarm evolved to be perfect predators, but they forgot that nature doesn't allow anything to remain perfect forever." As the battle wound down, reports began coming in from other sectors. Similar attacks were being launched across swarm space, each one exploiting different aspects of their biology and behavior. The species that had terrorized the galaxy for centuries was learning a harsh lesson about evolution: adapt or die. "Begin recovery operations," Ramirez ordered. "I want every piece of swarm biotechnology collected and analyzed. They'll try to evolve countermeasures to our tactics, but we'll be ready." Humanity spent millions of years learning how to stay ahead in the evolutionary arms race. We're not about to stop now. The war was far from over, but for the first time in centuries, the galaxy was seeing something it had thought impossible. The swarm was no longer the apex predator. Humanity had claimed that title, and they had no intention of giving it up. Turning point. Fleet Admiral Isabella Cruz stood on the bridge of the EDS Prometheus, humanity's newest flagship, as it led a combined fleet of human and Meridian warships toward the heart of swarm space. After 6 months of relentless warfare, they had finally located the swarm's central hive world, the source of the neural network that connected their entire species. "Status report," Cruz commanded, her neural interface processing tactical data from over 1,000 ships. "The swarm has concentrated their remaining forces around the hive world," Commander Jack Wilson reported. "Initial scans show over 2,000 defender ships, plus planetary defense systems unlike anything we've encountered before." The holographic display showed the swarm's last bastion. The planet itself had been transformed into a living fortress, its surface covered in biological weapon structures that pulsed with deadly energy. The defending fleet had arranged itself in concentric rings around the world, ready to die protecting their species' birthplace. They're desperate. Observed High Sentinel Vix from their position, the side crews. In the months since first contact, the Meridian's crystalline structures had evolved to better interface with human technology, a visible symbol of their growing alliance. The swarm has never faced extinction before. They do not know how to process the concept. Kruz smiled grimly. That's their fundamental weakness. They've always been the ones driving other species to extinction. They never learned how to fight with their backs against the wall. Humanity, on the other hand. She left the thought unfinished. Earth's history was filled with near-extinction events that had only made their species stronger. Begin Operation Genesis, Kruz ordered. Show them why humanity named our ships after the gods of creation and destruction. The combined fleet moved into attack position, but not in any formation the swarm would recognize. Like the complex ecosystems of Earth, each ship had its role to play in the coming battle. The first wave consisted of the Hydra-class vessels, ships specifically designed to draw enemy fire and split into multiple combat-capable sections when damaged. As the swarm fleet opened fire, these ships began their deadly dance, each destroyed section spawning 2 more ships, overwhelming the enemy's targeting systems with an ever-increasing number of threats. Swarm fleet is responding exactly as predicted, Wilson reported. They're committing more ships to destroy the Hydras, creating gaps in their defensive lines. Launch the Chimeras, Kruz ordered. The second wave of human ships decloaked within the gaps created by the Hydras. These vessels, named after mythical hybrid beasts, carried weapons that combine multiple forms of quantum manipulation. Like their namesakes, they were impossible to defend against because they attacked through multiple vectors simultaneously. Quantum web is being established, Wilson announced. Meridian crystal ships are in position. The Meridian vessels, their crystalline hulls now enhanced with human quantum technology, began creating a lattice of altered spacetime around the hive world. Any swarm ship that tried to escape would find itself trapped in a maze where the laws of physics themselves became weapons. The swarm hive mind is attempting to adapt, Vix reported, their crystals pulsing with real-time data. They are evolving their neural network to operate in quantum space. Just as we expected, Kruz nodded. Execute final phase. Release the Titans. From the rear of the human fleet, massive ships emerged from quantum displacement. The Titans were humanity's ultimate weapons, vessels that combined everything they had learned about evolution, predation, and warfare into singular entities. Each one was practically a living ecosystem of quantum technology, meridian crystals, and human consciousness. Titan neural networks are sensing, Wilson reported. Quantum consciousness field is stable. Beginning upload. Kruz closed her eyes as her consciousness expanded through the quantum network. Every ship commander in the fleet did the same, their minds joining in a human version of the swarm's hive mind. But where the swarm's network was rigid, optimized for a single type of warfare, the human network was chaos theory made manifest. Billions of years of evolutionary competition converted into pure military strategy. The battle that followed was unlike anything the galaxy had ever witnessed. The Titan ships moved with impossible grace, their quantum weapons reshaping reality itself. They didn't just destroy swarm ships, they rewrote the fundamental laws of physics around them, turning space itself into a weapon. The swarm tried to adapt, their ships rapidly evolving new defenses. But for every adaptation they developed, the human fleet had already prepared 3 countermeasures. Like the endless arms race between predator and prey on Earth, every move was met with multiple evolutionary responses. The swarm's coordination is breaking down, Wilson reported. Their attempts to evolve quantum defenses are causing cascading failures in their neural network. They're experiencing what every dominant species on Earth faced, Kruz explained to Vix as they watched the battle unfold. The moment they realize they're no longer at the top of the food chain. The moment they understand that evolution doesn't care about past success. The swarm's mighty defense fleet was being systematically dismantled. Ships that tried to flee were caught in the quantum web and torn apart. Those that stood and fought found themselves facing weapons they couldn't comprehend, let alone defend against. The surface of their hive world erupted as quantum effects disrupted the very biological processes that controlled their planetary weapons. "We're detecting a massive energy surge from the planet," Wilson announced. "The swarm, they're trying to merge their entire species into a single entity." "That's it then," Kruz said quietly. "The ultimate evolutionary response. Become something entirely new or face extinction. Launch the Genesis Protocol." The Titans moved into their final attack pattern, their quantum fields linking to create a single, massive consciousness network. Every human commander, every Meridian crystal ship, every quantum weapon focused their energy on a single purpose, not to destroy the swarm, but to force their evolution in a new direction. The Genesis Protocol wasn't a weapon of destruction. It was the distilled essence of Earth's evolutionary history. The knowledge that true survival didn't come through dominance alone, but through adaptation, cooperation, and change. As the protocol took effect, the swarm's desperate attempt to merge their consciousness was subtly altered. Instead of becoming a single, overwhelming entity, they were guided into something new, a species that could understand cooperation as well as consumption, creation as well as destruction. The battle ended not with the extinction of the swarm, but with their transformation. Their hive mind, once focused solely on consumption and conquest, had been restructured. They would survive, but as something new, a species that understood the true lessons of evolution. "It is beautiful," Vix whispered, their crystals pulsing with wonder as they watched the transformed swarm world pulse, with new forms of energy. "You could have destroyed them, yet you chose to help them evolve." Kruz nodded, watching as the combined fleet began rescue and recovery operations. "That's the greatest lesson humanity learned from Earth's history. True victory doesn't come from destroying your competition. It comes from creating something new, something better." The galaxy wasn't ready for the swarm, but it wasn't ready for humanity either. Now we'll show them why Earth's greatest achievement wasn't learning how to fight. It was learning how to change. As ships from a dozen species began arriving to witness the transformation, Kruz knew that this wasn't just the end of a war. It was the beginning of a new era in galactic history. Humanity had proved itself not just as warriors, but as guardians of evolution itself. The galaxy would never be the same, and that was exactly as it should be.